A long time ago, a very dear friend and a great teacher of mine said that the quality of your life is directly proportional to the quality of your questions. So I got a bunch of questions for you. First off, is it cold enough for you? I'm sorry. I had to do it. When PJ and I first got together and started talking about coming here today and being with your wonderful community, one of my background thoughts was, cool, Texas in January should be nice. It'll be warmer than Colorado, where I'm from. Everything will, be cozy. And no. So if it's too cold for you, you can blame it on me. My apologies. I brought the cold with me, or sent it along ahead of time. So. The other funny part about today that I love is that when Reverend PJ said, okay, yeah, let's do it, and we decided on a date, and then about a week later she wrote back and said, hey, can you do something on prosperity and abundance? And I went, sure. Let me think about that for a minute. Absolutely. And then I realized that the science of mind philosophy and New Thought as a greater philosophy over the past 20 plus years has taught me a lot about prosperity. It's taught me a lot about how to be anchored in prosperity. It's taught me a lot about how not to be afraid of that word, prosperity. And mostly it's taught me a lot about not judging others for how they experience their prosperity. In our little flyer today, I promised you the 3 keys to prosperous living. I'm going to give those to you right now. They're pretty easy. Number 1 is the philosophy. Number 2 is faith. And number 3 is a way of life. Now, New Thought as a whole, we have, from my perspective, and I've been in this movement just over 20 years, from my perspective, there have always been sort of 2 camps in the New Thought world. Those that say we're here to learn prosperity, and those that say that we're here to learn how to better ourselves. Personal empowerment versus the prosperity gospel. And if we look outside the New Thought movement, there are plenty of people that like to, give us a little grief, if you will, for being a little too anchored in the concept of the prosperity gospel. How many people know what I'm talking about when I say the prosperity gospel? We'll do a little quick raise of hands. Remember, there's a lot of questions today, and PJ is grading how many people are participating. So raise your hand whether you want to or not to the questions as we go along. So we get a little bit of grief because there are those folks that say the work of New Thought is to do our own work in our own consciousness and heal ourselves and be the very best person that we can possibly be, and somehow, miraculously, the rest of the world will change. When we get okay in our prosperity conscious, there will be no one else left on the streets asking for money. When we get okay with our own consciousness around our housing and hospitality and all of the things in our life, then all those worldly problems will go away. Not so much. Yes, we must do the work ourselves first. Yes, you've all heard the story of being on an airplane and the oxygen masks come down. Has anybody ever experienced that, by the way? No, me either. I've never had the oxygen mask come down. However, I do know that if that were to happen, you give it to the person next to you first. No. No, exactly. But see, that's what the prosperity gospel teaches. It teaches us to give, and then we will receive. It teaches us that the more I give, the more I'm going to receive. And that's not exactly the whole story from my perspective. See, today's called A New Thought on Prosperity because over 20 years of practicing the traditional New Thought ideas, well, I've seen a lot of people meet with very limited success. How many people have heard the word tithing at one point or another in one of these churches? Yes. One of the things I love about New Thought is we really like to appropriate other religions and other cultures' practices at times and make them our own. They don't like it that we do that so much, but we do. And somewhere along the line, and I've tried to trace this back as far as I can, and I don't know where we started talking about tithing. I can't find a reference where Ernest Holmes ever talked about tithing. There are some references where the Fillmores talked about tithing. But I can never, in religious science, I've never found that direct thing that says, give 10%. What I have heard over the years is give to where you are spiritually fed. Anybody ever heard that one? Yeah, we're getting rid of that one. That one's being erased. Because what happens there is that is very transactional. I'm going to give you something, you're going to feel fed, and so by that, you're going to put money in the basket. And if I do a really good job this morning, you're going to put a little extra money in the basket when it goes around later, right? Everybody go like this. Yeah. It's transactional. New Thought is about transformation. It's about being transformative. So let me ask you another question. How many people feel like this is your spiritual home, that you are committed to Harmony Spirit Center? Cool. Those that didn't raise your hand, make sure you're at the workshop. We'll have a private talk later. If this is a transformative work and you are committed to this community, then my suggestion is you give to where you are committed. Don't give where you're fed. Every time I walk into a restaurant, they ask me to give a little something extra so their corporation can get the tax donation by donating to a charity. I don't agree with that. I don't know about you. I don't give where I'm fed, but I definitely give where I'm committed. And when I see a community such as this doing the work of New Thought in a unique environment, in a different way, outside the normal parameters, I think to myself, this community's got to be committed to something. And truthfully, in our post-COVID age, the communities that are still meeting in person, that are still thriving, and that's not to say we don't want you live streamers. Hello to the live streamers. We're glad you're with us too. But the communities that are coming together in person and are maintaining and hopefully thriving, and we're going to talk about that in the workshop a bit, and growing, there's a commitment. I like that. In your Declaration of Principles and such, I saw a word that I don't often see in a group's values, and that is transparency. And I love that. So in the spirit of transparency, I have another question for you. You guys all right if I lose the jacket? Thank you. In my first time, I like dressing up. I like wearing nice clothes. And I was told that I got really, really lucky and picked TCU colors for today. I'm going to be transparent, it wasn't planned. Next time, it'll be planned. I believe that in New Thought, and New Thought communities such as this are the forerunner of a new society. Doesn't matter what's come before, it doesn't matter what's coming next. We are the forerunners of a new society. And it all happened with COVID. Come on. Is there anybody that wants to argue the whole world didn't change, our whole outlook didn't change, that every aspect of our life didn't change, that we weren't thrown into the abyss? But you've stayed the course. You've stayed here. You've continued to grow. You've continued to meet. You've continued to study these philosophies. Because what I know is when you give yourself to the New Thought philosophy, there is truly nothing that is impossible. 20 years ago, my wife and I were sitting in a smaller, much smaller room than this in a strip mall in Salt Lake City. Luckily, there was a Baskin-Robbins next door, and they did really well on class night because class would take a break and 40 people would run next door to Baskin-Robbins. One of the workers there actually told me, normally we don't stay open on Wednesday nights, but you guys make it worth it. And in that, some great teachers laid out a vision. Now, this is way back in 2001, 2002, laid out a vision for what New Thought could become. And I believe we are making that happen. I believe that is happening. Now, back in those days, we had all kinds of fun little jokes. I would joke with my wife about someday we're going to be working on laptops, living on the beaches of Fiji. Why not? It's possible. We could do this work from the beaches of Fiji. And you know, I put that thought aside at some point, and it was a fun little line for a while, and I kind of put that thought aside for a while, but I guess it never really went away. Because about 6 or 7 months ago, my news feed started showing me travel advertisements for Fiji. Out of nowhere. I didn't go search Fiji. I didn't say Fiji out loud so Siri could hear me. It wasn't even in my thought. But there it was. Interestingly enough, we will be traveling to Africa next week for a 2-week trip to Kenya to support a growing spiritual community there, the Center for Spiritual Living Kenya. So I got a feeling that little advertisement on my YouTube page is really just a precursor for something to come. Yeah. And Kenya is a demonstration of a piece of consciousness, because I did not know we had a center in Kenya until about 2 years ago, when we were at a retreat in Geneva, Switzerland. And at that time, a little card was put in our hand, a marketing piece was given to us that said Kenya. And my boyfriend and I both looked at it and said, that would be fun, don't you think? And we put it away and we didn't really think about it. The first key to our prosperity is to have a consciousness that says it can happen. To have a consciousness that says I am already prosperous. See, prosperity is not something we accomplish. It's not a destination we try to get to. It is a state of mind and a consciousness that we live in that says, I am prosperous. And what that means is there will always be enough. There'll always be enough food. There'll always be enough shelter. There'll always be enough resources. There'll always be enough, well, I live with teenagers, so there's not quite always enough laundry detergent. But prosperity says that everything necessary for the complete and total fulfillment of my life's mission, of my soul's purpose, comes into my life exactly as necessary. Yes, yes. Not when I say I want it, not because I kind of hope it might happen. Now the good news there is if there is something that you've been wanting in your life and it's not in your life, that's okay. Kick back, it's not necessary. An extra car, not necessary. An extra garage, not necessary. If it's necessary for you to fulfill your life's mission, it will show up in your life somewhere and some way. And all we have to do is abide by my second key, faith. How many people have heard the term, you got to faith it until you make it? That one's real. Now again, this doesn't mean that I go out and buy myself a nice brand new sports car, because obviously it's not necessary. Driving from Denver to Fort Worth, I like my sedan. It's much more comfortable than a sports car. It doesn't mean that I go running out and buy designer suits. Prosperity and having the faith in our prosperity means that I will turn within. I turn to myself, and I do the prayer work, and I do the meditation work. I do the work that creates an experience within myself of the consciousness I desire. And in order to build faith, what I love about this is it's all circular. These things work together. To build faith, I have to build a practice, a way of life, a way of thinking. I brought this book with me today. This book currently has 1,260, we started on 1,100, I think, and we started just under 1,000. It's got about 300 entries in it to it. It's part of a 40-day prosperity program. There's a gentleman named John Randolph Price. Some of you may have heard of him. He wrote a little book a long time ago called The Prosperity Plan. And in that, and I forgot my copy of the book because it's dog-eared and ripped up, and I actually went and printed it on a little card and laminated it to make it easier for myself. And in this practice, he gives us 10 prosperity principles. 10 things. They're usually 2 to 4 to 5 sentences long. And the idea is each day you write down what he has given you, and then you fill the rest of your page with whatever comes through for you, whatever your consciousness wants to pour forth about prosperity. And the idea is that you start with day 1 and you move through day 1 through day 10, and on day 11 you go back to the start and you do, so there's 10 days and you do them 4 times, and if you miss a day or something happens, you get punished and you got to go all the way back to the beginning, and I never liked that part. I give you permission to skip that part. And I had done this process a few times throughout my life as a religious scientist, if you will. And every so often I'd I'd pick up the little book and I'd do the process, and 40 days later I'd put down the book and I'd put away the journal, and I hadn't done it for a while, and then again we have this thing, the pandemic. And somewhere in the early parts of the pandemic, I picked up that book again. And I thought to myself, if there is ever a time to prove this stuff works, now is it. On March 18th of 2020, I had been, just recently gifted a subscription to a platform called StreamYard. It's a live streaming platform. I wasn't really into live streaming, wasn't really planning on starting a live stream ministry, was kind of actually really burnt out on ministry and ready to let it all go and find something else to do. And on the 18th, I said, no, the world needs to hear a treatment, a prayer. The world needs to hear the word of new thought. And so I began praying twice a day, 8:15 a.m. and 8:15 p.m. Why 8:15? So I could sleep in an extra 10 minutes. Twice a day, we started praying. And after about 3 months, I had a couple friends that decided they'd join me, mostly because after 3 months, you started to kind of get out in the world again, just a little bit. And I had a couple friends that decided they'd join and help. We're rapidly approaching our 4th anniversary, and in that time, we now have over 50 hours a week of live broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. And yes, it might have taken a little while to get it all put together, but Reverends PJ and Melinda and Kim Andrews are all together. They do a program with us on Monday afternoon, Tuesday, yes. There's a lot there on that thing. On Tuesday afternoon, New Thought Sisters, where they get together and 2 o'clock Central, yes. Real Talk with the New Thought Sisters. And they get together and they share these principles in a way that reach people across this planet. Somewhere in this whole process, we came up with our vision statement. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. I have no clue how to do that. I was not trained how to do that. I don't think any of the New Thought ministers that I'm aware of were trained how to navigate what we have navigated in the last 3 years, but we're still here. And the beaches of Fiji are still waiting for us. And our prosperity is growing. No matter what the numbers look like, I want you to know that prosperity is not directly tied to your bank account. It is directly tied, and I will keep coming back to this, to your consciousness, to your personal philosophy. Years ago, it's interesting. I've only driven around Fort Worth a little bit yesterday, and it was mostly dark, and then this morning, and it was mostly early. So I don't have any real gauge of how many people are living on your streets. I have no real gauge of how many people are begging to survive in your community. I know that in my community back home, it's worse than it's ever been. And in many communities, this problem needs our attention because we are the ones that have the consciousness that can lift up a new vision where homelessness is eradicated. We know there are more than enough homes on this planet for every person that lives on this planet. And together, communities and organizations are working on figuring out how to make all that happen. We have to make New Thought real. We have to make it mean something for the people of our communities. Now, I'm not going to tell you how to do that, because your community needs to determine that for yourselves. But what I can share with you is it changes, it evolves. Many years ago at the Salt Lake Center for Spiritual Living, we were doing care packages, socks and deodorant and toiletries, and in a baggie, and hand out a baggie to somebody that's in need. One of the things New Thought likes to do also is we get great ideas and we don't actually always listen to the people that need the help. That's what happened in Salt Lake. Advocates from the community came to us and said, what you're doing is admirable, but there's more you could do, and you could take your resources and make much more of an impact. And so we started to partner with community advocates that helped us to direct in other ways. And back then, you could get gift cards from your local supermarket for real cheap. So we transitioned and we started buying gift cards. And with gift cards, most supermarkets won't sell alcohol, tobacco, other items that on gift cards. So we thought that was a good idea. Let's do the gift cards. And then we were reminded that for some people, they're going to die out on that street if they don't get that shot of whatever. And we were kind of given the concept that we're prejudging you by giving you a gift card. We're prejudging that you're going to go buy alcohol with that, and we don't want you to. And our judgments got in the way of our work. So now we just give money. Keep a stack of keep a band of dollar bills in your car. Keep a stack of $5 bills in your car. Because truthfully, if you were down to the point of begging on the street, would a buck really help? Maybe after enough of them. But a buck isn't even going to get you warm, isn't going to get you a cup of coffee these days. Keep a stack of fives in your wallet, in your car. Doesn't mean you have to give those to every single person you meet. Doesn't mean you have to give one to every single person at the same stop sign. But it gives you the opportunity to give. And everywhere I go, anytime I share this idea, I get the but. If $5 is going to make or break your week, then you have to be in this workshop at 1 o'clock. Correct. We are the ones that the world has been waiting for. We have a philosophy that changes people's lives every single day. Whether that's in the realm of prosperity or whether that's LGBTQA concerns and rights, whether that is housing, no matter what the question may be, New Thought has the answer. Margaret Mead wrote a long time ago, "There's nothing more powerful in the world, nothing that can change the world more than a committed group of individuals." So I come back to my question, are you committed to Harmony Spiritual Center? Will you give to where you are committed? And what I believe, and I will hold this until my dying day, what I believe is together we're creating a new society. We're creating a world that works for all life. Not just my life, not just the lives of my friends and family, not just the lives of the people that show up at my church, but we are creating a new society that is here to support everyone, every form of life. The creepy crawly creatures, the feathered creatures, the winged creatures, the furry creatures. We're here creating a world that works for all life. So one of my personal prosperity teachers has a question that she asks, and it rings through my head all the time. What's the money for? We can go out today, and we can learn how to invest better and get a better return and have more money in our bank account. We can go out and figure out how to get a better job that gives us more money and pays us more. We can figure out how to work a side hustle on YouTube or online that gives us a little extra, puts some more in our bucket. But at the end of the day, if we're not asking ourselves, what is the money for? I think we're doing ourselves a disservice and an injustice. Everything necessary for the complete and total fulfillment of your life's work, your soul's purpose, your reason for being, everything necessary comes into your life exactly as necessary. So if you give away $50 and that $50 is necessary, this philosophy teaches us it'll show up. It'll be replenished. A philosophy, a faith, and then we turn it into a way of life. I asked PJ at the beginning if I get to pray or if that's somebody else's job, and she said, "You do what you want, Robert," so we're going to pray. If you're with me and in a safe enough place to close your eyes, I invite you to please do so. As we come together in consciousness, letting go of the hustle and the bustle of the day, letting go of everything it may have taken to be here, be simply here. Be present to this moment, in this space, in this magnificent, glorious, sacred space. And join me as we come to recognize the one power, one presence, one infinite intelligence that is moving and breathing and having its being as all of life. One self-existent cause that is forever taking on form and abandoning that form in order to take on new form. One source of love and light and beauty and truth and health and wealth and well-being and abundance and prosperity. One life. Call it God's life. Call it perfect. And I recognize that oneness expressing itself as my life, as the lives of each one here in this room, each one watching online, those that may watch at another time or from another dimension, the oneness revealing itself through each of our hearts, through each of our hands, through each of our innate sense of oneness, of giving. So I claim for each one here a deep knowing that you are already prosperous And a new thought on prosperity is one where we keep it not to ourselves, but share it into the world. Share into the world the consciousness, the philosophy, the faith, the way of living that is new thought, that we are and that we are expressing and sharing into the world. I lift up a great vision of oneness and claim that for all that are here and all that are being attracted to this amazing community. Together, we are one. Together, we are creating a new way. Together, we are birthing a new society. And that is good. So I speak a word for everyone here. I claim for each a deeper sense of our own prosperity, a deeper sense of knowing that everything necessary comes into our lives exactly as it must to bring forth our greatest vision, the glory of our lives, and live that fully. With a grateful heart, I release this word into that universal law that is already acting upon this word, already bringing this word into form, and let it be. And invite you to join me in the affirmation of this truth by simply saying, and so it is.